The the mayor talked about Bayou Shane and the barge that's going to be dropped out there. I got to tell you, St. Mary Parish and St. Mary Levee District has done an outstanding job. And President Narcan and Bill Hidalgo have been great partners in this thing all the way along. And so we are part of that team. There are going to be folks, and the locals have some of the mission, and the state has a little bit of some. And our part of this mission is we're going to bring a whole bunch of rock in there. I think we're bringing 17,000 tons of rock, something close to that. I forget the exact number. We're bringing a bucket load of rock, and that's going to be our contribution. And so we're happy to do that. And I guess the last thing I want to say, let me look here in my notes. You guys have seen probably in the news about the Bonnie Carey spillway, okay? We opened up the Bonnie Carey spillway, and that serves a great purpose as well. And we're up to almost about half capacity there right now, and we're moving quickly to open up as much as we can in that. And I think we'll probably be opening almost all of that within the next couple of days. Now, we have close coordination with Mayor Mott. And as I said, this is not my first time here, and Mayor Mott is working tirelessly for you guys day in and day out. I've talked to him on the phone numerous times. We've had meetings. I've shared all the information that I have with him, and we're proud to be part of the team, help to make these decisions, and I really appreciate you giving me a few minutes to come and talk to you tonight. Now, you do have to remember one thing. I'm providing you one piece of information, okay, 0 to 5 feet. Okay? Somebody else is going to tell you, well, I was here in 73, and in 73 we had no water right here. Okay, that's good. That's another data point. Okay? Somebody else is going to tell you, well, I heard the National Weather Service said blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's another data point. So as you're making your decision about what you want to do, about whether you want to put sandbags on your own property, or whether you want to pack up and move and take a vacation for a week, or whatever it is you want to do, this is just all little bits of information that goes into you making your own decision on how you want to do it. But what I got to tell you is, if the parish president, the mayor, or the sheriff comes in and says it's time to evacuate, you better listen to them. Okay? You heed their orders. I'm not going to tell you, I don't have the authority to do it. But they can, and if they do, you need to listen to them. I don't think we're going to get to that. But if they do, listen to them. Okay? You guys have been through some of this before in coastal Louisiana. Not necessarily from the river, but a lot of times from the coastline. And when you get to that point, if you do have to evacuate, you remember what's important to you. Okay, I said the other night, I've been in the Army 22 years. In 22 years, I've moved 14 times. 14 times I've moved. My daughter's in the 9th grade. She's been in 6 different schools. So when you pack up, if none of you have ever moved before, you don't understand the feeling. Okay? When the moving truck comes up to the front of your house, and they take everything you own, and they put it in that moving truck. Now what we do sometimes, since I've done this more than once, I got a technique. I take some things that I'm going to put in a suitcase that we're going to drive in a car with us, some important documents and, things we want to take, some clothes and all. You take an extra set of sheets because you never know where you're going to end up on the other end, right? You might bring some towels too. My wife likes to bring some silverware and some plates. I don't know why. I guess it's a lady thing or something. We take all that stuff and we put it in one closet. We put a big sign on it. We tell the movers, do not touch, do not open, okay? One time I did, and I was in big trouble, okay? But that's a different story. So you stand out there at the end of the day, and that moving truck drives away. And everything you own drives away in that moving truck. And you kind of stand there in the driveway with your wife and your daughter and a suitcase or two, and that's when you find out what's important to you. That's when you absolutely find out what's important to you. Because it's those things right next to you in the driveway, arm in arm, and it's those couple of boxes and those couple of suitcases. It's not all that stuff that's on that truck. That truck could fall off the bridge, and it wouldn't matter. What's important to you is right there in the driveway with you. Now most likely we're not going to have to evacuate here. And that's my hope and that's my prayer. But there are places in the state of Louisiana that will be evacuated, and there are folks that are evacuating right now. And I was up in Butte La Rose the other night. If you know Butte LaRose, they're in the floodway. And there is no ring levee around that city. And so you figure out what's important to you real quickly when you have to do something like that. So just keep that in mind if you get a knock on the door, or if the word comes that it's time to evacuate. So, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you coming here tonight. And my goal is to be here a couple of weeks from now, and you guys can tell me that Colonel didn't know what the heck he was talking about 0 to 5 feet, because I only got 3 inches of water. That would be my hope and my prayer. So thank you very much.
All right, and the Colonel is going to stay around, and he'll be able to address some of the questions that may come up. The last prepared presentation I have is I'd like to ask our St. Mary Levee District President, Mr. Bill Hidalgo, to come up. And Bill is going to touch on the project on Bayou Chene, to give you just kind of both a general description of it, but also an update as exactly where it stands. Bill?
Can you go back to the Chene? And where is your...
Yeah, the map.
Yeah, that one. Okay. Okay. First off, you know, the Colonel, without a doubt, he is the authority on what's going to happen in the floodway. And his deputy, Tom Holden, leaned over to me before and told me, he said, you know, the mayor really knows what he's talking about. He's presenting it right. You know, not many people can do that. So I just want you to know that you're in good hands, and the people are making preparations for you. They know what they're doing. What we're trying to do as a levee district is, and if you can see this little pointer up here, we found a spot on Bayou Chene where the elevation, and this is Avoca Island, where the elevation on Avoca Island right at the edge of Bayou Chene is at an elevation of +10. From there, it tapers off back to a road, the Avoca Road, and it's about +5. On the other side, it's like a +8, and it tapers down into this area from 8 to 4 to 3 to 2. Okay? Today we had Dr. Suheda, who is a noted hydrologist, with us, and we were reviewing what we are doing. In '73, something was done that we all have heard and talked about, and that and we're guessing it was somewhere in this vicinity, a barge was sunk across the Chene. Well, we found this other area right here, and what we are going to do is not just sink a barge, and we're going to sink a barge, but we're going to seal it from bank to bank with sheet pile. And we're going to do it to an elevation of 10. So, and where does that number 10 come from? Because we talked to the Corps, because we were looking at a project earlier, and they said the 50-year flow line order of magnitude in this vicinity was 9. So we figured if we went to 10, we'd have a factor of safety. Now, we've had some good engineers to look at this, to design it, and we feel good about it, but it's like anything else. When you messing with Mother Nature in the middle of a stream, things can happen, but we think we are thinking about all those things that can happen. To tell you what this structure is, we are sinking a barge that J. Ray McDermott has that is 500 feet long. We're going to back that barge up with 3 other barges, and we're going to drive pylons to hold those barges. And that's been reviewed by engineers, and the engineers tell us that that's going to hold it steady. And we are going to drive sheet pile from one side to the other side. Actually, we're going to start in the middle and go one side. We're going to start in the middle and the other side. Let me tell you what we have out there right now. We have 7 spud barges. We have 3 pile driving rigs. We have 1,000 feet of sheet pile. Just of interest, 1.8 million of sheet pile. The Corps is going to bring us a rock. I'm told it's order of magnitude $2 million of rock. And why we need the rock is because we're going to back up the sheet pile with this barge system, but when it gets to the bank, we can't really get that close to the bank, so we're going to use the rock to reinforce that sheet pile there, and also to prevent erosion during the process of putting it in. The hydrologist anticipates that the flow, when it comes back up the Cheyenne, once it hits our dam, it's going to build up on it a little bit, and then it'll start backflowing. And what we're attempting to do is get sheet flow across this marsh and flow through Bayou Penchant and the other canals and tributaries that are off the Cheyenne. So we feel what it's going to do is get sheet flow across the marsh, driving it to the south and to the east, and keep it out of our backwater area. Now, people want that because it's good for the marsh, and it's going to enrich this marsh. Now, it might fill in a few little canals that can be dredged later, but in general, it's going to be good. So what we attempt to do, and again, it is not going to be just a barge that's going to be in the channel and hope that it seals off. From the bottom of the channel, we're going to have sheet pile driven 30 feet below the bottom. And that's one of our major concerns. We want to make sure we get a good seal across the bottom, and we want to have the height or the elevation such to protect us if it builds up that high. But there's no way it's going to build up to 10 if we stop it at 5 or 6, because we're going to get sheet flow across this marsh, because this marsh is like 1.5 to the most. So that's the plan, and let me just tell you, we really believe it's going to work. Our engineers are comfortable with it. Right now, to tell you the status, we have 2 barges. When I left out there at 4 o'clock, we had 2 barges on location in position. The McDermott barge was below where our structure is going to be, deballasted, ready to put in place, and we were dredging the area just to give a good flat surface in that vicinity, and also to allow the McDermott barge, which is 32 feet deep, to get as deep in the water as we can possibly can.